It's Tuesday, September 16th, 6 p.m. here in Los Angeles. I'm Jack Armstrong.
And 9 p.m. here in the DMV. I'm Sam Giacinto, and you're listening to Tech Talk Live. Before we get started today, Tech Talk Live loves Before Sunset AI. Conquer your to-do list with an AI productivity superhero. Code Tech Talk Live for 3 months free. Give it a shot at beforesunset.ai. And with that, let's dive into the news. Millions for nothing.
Yeah, this is exciting. We don't see this very often. A company raising so much money, their valuation's over $1 billion. This is for new, obviously we've covered, the CMF phone, but they're really making their own agentic OS. So this is very unique to see a new phone brand being so brave, creating their own operating system surrounding AI. So yeah, really, really exciting to see what's coming with nothing.
No, and you bring up a good point because it's very rare for, nothing as a hardware manufacturer, right? We have the nothing phone, the nothing buds, the nothing watch, sort of gaining any sort of foothold. We're more or less in a, duopoly situation, with the Samsung and Apple of the world making up probably over 70% of phone sales, at least in the US. So to have a competitor, despite their relatively small market share, 1% globally, but, it's a start. And honestly, since, coming a long way from the days of, I don't know if you remember HTC, it's the, or
Oh yeah.
Nokia, or any, we've come a long way from the vast sort of selection of hardware, and kind of consolidated down. So I think, if they can sell on the, you know, now I guess the AI vision, you know, is interesting. I don't know what that sort of involves on the hardware side. Um, I mean, is it a new device? Is it a modification of the smartphone? Um, I guess if you ask Nothing CEO, he believes that smartphones will be the best way to deliver AI features. Um, and perhaps, in the near term, he could be right. I mean, it's going to take a lot, and we've talked about this before, where we're creatures of habit. We don't like to switch the way we do things. And if anything, the smartphone is the only consistent marker of the technical space. Like we've in some ways exponentially progressed in the capability, but the form factor has remained the same.
Yes. Well, also it's worth noting we've now got the CMF Watch 3 Pro. This is $99. However, on Amazon you can currently get it for 69. Pretty impressive with a 13-day battery life, built-in dual band GPS, and an AMOLED display. Really sleek looking, durable looking too. Obviously, have not seen it in person, but it looks really sleek. And if it's anything like their phones and their earbuds, it's a very value driven ecosystem that we're seeing from nothing, which is impressive because, yeah, we don't really know what the agentic AI, what this OS is going to bring. I feel like we can speculate that they've been running Android, they've been running their own ecosystem. Uh, I mean, I guess you would call it a skin on Android. Samsung is doing this. But
No,
when they
exactly.
say they're gonna create their own operating system, that's really different. Like, we don't see other companies, like, doing this, even Samsung, right? So, they feel like they have the desire to create a whole new operating system with AI as the focus. So, I mean, honestly, we might need this. if you think about it, we might need this because Apple really can't get it together. And building an ecosystem, building an operating system from the ground up that utilizes AI in everything on the phone, I think that is the future. So, yeah, it'll be fascinating to see.
Well, yeah, and then you make a great point with the Watch 3 Pro, again, features that kind of rival the Apple Watch Ultra as far as dual band GPS and kind of emphasizing the tracking aspect versus maybe having the latest and greatest, 5G in your watch. I mean, that's great, but functionally, like, do you really need a dedicated 5G modem in your watch? Maybe, maybe not. Um, so it's on sale at Amazon as, kind of a low barrier entry price, to, if you have an Android phone, perhaps a unique way to try that out. But yeah, no, you bring up a good point about AI, and I don't know. It's it's interesting because the article says an operating system with AI features that might extend beyond smartphones. So I don't know, like that's about as vague as you can get, right? Um,
Mhm.
and it's it's sort of, and I think the CEO kind of brings up a um an interesting point where I guess for at least 3 to 5 years, you know, we're still going to be on the smartphone. So I don't know if that means, is that a roadmap? Is that sort of, something? So it'll be interesting to see. And kind of side note too, if you remember the Humane AI pin, um, that was kind of spun off to HP back in February. Um, for less than half of what it raised in venture capital funding. So many have tried and failed at this experiment. Um, and it really could be, I mean, it's good that we have another player. Um, we've seen the Phone 3 that came out in July, and we spoke about it a bit. Um, sort of the flagship killer in some ways. Um, but it's kind of far out there design. I don't know what that means from a functional standpoint and if they're going to be the one to crack the code, but glad to have a player 3 or 4 or 10 in the arena to do that.
Yeah. Absolutely. I feel like we don't see this very often. And Samsung also has been kind of, I don't want to say gatekeeping, but like, I don't think we see much like from AI. Like, we don't see Samsung being like, at least as of right now, a significant name in AI. Their phones are sleek and powerful, but I feel like nothing is kind of like the new kid on the block saying, "Hey, we can, actually really do this in a different way." So it's impressive to see that coming to life here, and I feel like their ecosystem, we haven't seen this from a new player uh, before. So London based, nothing, raising $200 million. Um, very very cool to see that.
Yeah.
Also, I mean, we can't forget to mention the operating system iOS. Liquid Glass is here. So, what do we think of iOS 26 out now? I've been using it for a full day. I feel like it's bouncy.
Um,
I know you had said that.
yeah, no, I mean, we have
Sleek.
and obviously emphasize, including all the functional features. Um, the new design language is here, Liquid Glass. We've seen sort of some complaints about, perhaps the responsiveness or visual effects, a more transparent forward looking, everything is sort of glowy and more 3D, if that makes sense. Like the icons are more, have a frosted glass appearance to them. So we're slowly kind of reverting back to really what iOS 6 was, but more refined, I guess. Um, I've noticed a few, I mean, on the older phones, so the edge of support for this is iPhone 11. The iPhone 10 was sadly left out of this update. Um, but I would say on the older devices, I don't know if there was as much extensive testing done. I mean, there's some flickering borders and other random. I don't know what you've seen with your phone, but at least for the 4-year old phone cam, it's usable and feels snappy. But there are, I would say, some finer kind of quality of life things that it's just obvious weren't really fully hashed out, and that's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just kind of the reality of the situation. Older phones don't get a lot of attention for those smaller things, so but it's
Yeah, I
usable.
mean, I feel like it's been pretty good on the 16 Pro Max. It is really interesting. Yeah, the frosted glass is an excellent way to say it. I feel like it's cool. I don't know the phone app. I mean, yeah, really across, you see more of websites you're browsing. The search bar at the bottom is taking me a little bit of time to get used to. I feel like kind of a lot of apps where we've had that at the top, so now kind of seeing that at the bottom is also kind of interesting. But yeah, really nice improvements from Apple here, and I feel like it'll be interesting to see how the 17 series of phones do. If people buy that Air phone, buy the Pro Max, shall be cool. Shall be interesting. Well, yeah, we should move on. We've got lots more topics to cover today, especially with TikTok in the news about the acquisition of being US operated. However, it looks like China will still control the algorithm. So it's still going to be a Chinese algorithm, which,
This was interesting, right? So, in essence, the parent company maintains control over the recommendation algorithm. So, licensing out you know, um, eh, so I guess they license out the algorithm. I don't really know what this means. It's a little bit vague because the article says China gets to keep the TikTok algorithm and license the algorithm to the US, yet the engineers will be forced to recreate a set of content recommendation algorithms. So I don't really know what algorithm they're getting licensed if they have to recreate content recommendation. I mean, that was kind of, again, we spoke of
the
this,
point of the
that's the bread and butter. I mean, to me, content recommendation is the algorithm, but I don't know what is being licensed if we're going to be recreating the content recommendation. Um,
yeah,
so I
it's
that's
weird.
let's see. I have to dig a little deeper on this because it just doesn't make a ton of sense. Um, the thing is,
Yeah, it's
like,
a
there's
little
no
strange.
clarity, really, from any.
So TikTok was expected to shut down tomorrow because President Trump has been threatening if they can't make a deal. They really want to see ownership shifting. However, China's making it clear that, hey, you're not going to own the algorithm. You're going to have to license the algorithm. And 80% ownership to potentially in an Oracle, Silver Lake, Andreessen Horowitz, right? Like ByteDance investors they're already existing ByteDance investors. So ultimately, China gets to keep the algorithm, simply licensing the algorithm instead of handing over the heart of TikTok's success. So basically, we don't see a whole lot really changing other than a US company owns the app but then has to pay licensing fees to own the app. Am I understanding that correctly?
Um, well, and I'll be completely honest, there's not a ton of again, there's not a ton of detail here because on one hand, they're saying that they will license the algorithm to the US based conglomerate. Um, but that's not, I mean, it just that doesn't make a ton of sense to me because I don't know why China would do that. To be fair,
Yeah.
like this is a rare you know, a rare Ars Technica um flub, I guess. It doesn't. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense because if you license the algorithm, why would you need to recreate the? There's obviously several
Well, and also,
that compose of the app.
yeah, because the algorithm is most of the app success, right? And so like if they don't own the algorithm and they're licensing the algorithm, they have a huge part of the app that's not really theirs. So and China's making it clear they don't want to give up the algorithm. They've been making this clear for a while. So we're still looking at it. Obviously, critics are attacking the deal because it's it's designed to stop China from spying over US users and manipulating the algorithm to influence Americans. However, that would still happen if they licensed the algorithm and a US company owned TikTok in the US. So, not really clear, other than ultimately China keeps the algorithm and they're licensing it to the US instead of owning the algorithm. It's a little confusing. So, but either way, looks like TikTok not shutting down on Wednesday as President Trump is inching closer to this deal. We're expecting more details maybe tomorrow. So keeping an eye on TikTok and yeah, I mean, also all those other apps that cropped up when they were under attack. You know, I think it's worth Red Note was a huge thing. Like, I think where did all these apps go? People just kind of said, "Oh, TikTok's not banned. All right, well, deleting those." So it's interesting to see how short-lived things can be, but also how impulsive we see people being when they can't use TikTok and Instagram. Obviously, a huge leader as well, but people like TikTok's recommendation algorithm more, seems like. So will be interesting to watch, that's for sure.
Well, and kind of something too overshadowing all this is that support, at least publicly, for a ban has been more or less kind of waning since March 2023, when Pew Research started uh, surveying Americans on the topic. So
Yeah.
I don't know if it's one of those things where there's just too much to track and we don't particularly care anymore, or perhaps people don't see it as a threat because, at least as you mentioned, the data privacy aspect of it, that is, sort of a major reason for 4 out of 5 people who support banning the app see data security being a major risk. So
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a matter of, well, it's been 2 years and nothing's happened, as sort of eroding support in that way. But I hate to keep saying this, but it's like we have to see, because this is one of those things where until, until I mean, I don't even know how you would tell where the components technically would be located. Because not only is this complicated from a, geopolitical standpoint, it's just technically difficult to have such a large content platform sort of segregated into two distinct clouds of content, like separate, it's hard to operate one platform across two distinct markets. I mean, people do it, but it's just sort of like introducing that to something where it previously didn't exist is different than spinning up different locations geographically. So
The only thing I'll mention though, we're not in an election cycle right now, and would those opinions change given an election cycle where China or Russia or some other government is negatively influencing that? Does that make sense? Like we haven't seen that before in that sense. Do you know what I mean?
well,
So
it's
like
hard to say. I
we
mean,
don't want the
it's
ban
one
now,
it's
but
very
we wonder.
difficult to prove. I mean, it's sort of like, I mean, like all tech companies, right? I mean, how do you prove? I mean, these algorithms are black boxes. I mean, this goes for, I mean, this goes for Google. This goes for any large tech company where there's not a lot of transparency behind how your data is used. This isn't uniquely a TikTok problem. Um, I think it gets a lot of attention, but this is more or less how every large tech company operates. I mean, do you know what happens to your Gmail? It's like, yeah, not really. I mean, Google probably reads it,
Well, the only
because,
difference is the American company, but it is an American company versus a Chinese company, and I do think people don't want our government influenced in that way. Does that make sense?
well, I mean, it's headquartered in the US, but I mean, the internet, is more or less interconnected. I mean, your data could be anywhere. I mean, it's not, Google has an
Yeah,
office in California, but that doesn't mean that your Gmail, sits in a nice neighborhood in Palo Alto all day. Um,
yeah,
it's so I think it's probably getting a little bit more attention, obviously, because of the implications. But I honestly don't see a huge difference between, again, like, the owners are different, but I mean, this is sort of flipping the coin. It's just sort of it's basically just sort of, it's like, because of who's behind it changes the whole script, and we should forget about, I mean, the American tech giants also, collect data on children or
yes.
whatever. I mean, whatever accusation is just sort of like, now, I guess who has direct access to it is probably the only, like, that's probably the only direct difference, is sort of like, well, who, I guess, has access to that data. But then it's sort of like, it's kind of a weird thing to base trust around, is sort of like, you know, where, I don't know. I mean, it's
Well, only time. Yeah, absolutely. Only time will tell. We'll see. I mean, people don't already think about privacy enough. We've got more news to come with that. But I agree with you fully. I feel like it really depends on, yeah, a lot of factors, and it'll only time will tell if this ownership will change and if it will affect people's opinions about their privacy and other governments potentially influencing things. So fascinating. We You also, by the way, brought up a interesting charging brick here that I had not seen before. This is pretty
so,
cool.
yeah, and I
What's going on
wanted to
here?
talk because, as you know, right, we had the Apple event last Tuesday. And, Apple kind of goes through, they do the whole marketing spiel. But from an engineering standpoint, they sort of left out one of the more impressive and sort of revolutionary things that they actually did. And it's in the form of a really small, uh, white charging brick, believe it or not, right? So, who cares, right? This looks like any other charging brick. But you may have noticed that Apple bragged about how fast the iPhones can charge now. So 50% in 20 minutes. And so behind that is Apple sort of completely, implementing this entirely new charging protocol. Now,
Yeah.
What's different
Yeah.
about this versus before is we're taking a lot of the components from the phone and we're putting them in the charging brick. So what does that do, right? We move the heat. Like, how do you move heat? You can physically move the things that make the heat to somewhere else. And then your phone doesn't get nearly as hot, which is, again, it sounds simple, right? Like, if you could just pick up something hot and put it somewhere else, you've moved the heat, and it's incredibly efficient. You don't have to transport it or use heat sinks or fans or any of that nonsense. You just move it to another location. And so that's kind
So
of the
why
stuff
haven't
of
and so why haven't they done this earlier?
so it's a new standard, essentially. So a lot of, power delivery or USB power delivery, before, sort of depended on, a fixed level of voltage, right? So we negotiate, we talk to each other, and we say, hey, we're going to give you voltage X, and that's the voltage you're getting. But now we can sort of say, hey, like, I would like voltage X or Y or Z, but instead of three different voltages, you can request a near, hundreds of different little steps. So instead, you can ask for exactly what you want, and you don't need to take whatever the charger gives you. You can essentially ask the charger to give you exactly what you need. And that's the ingenious part, because instead of doing black magic on the phone, you can just ask the charger to give you exactly what you need instead of the phone getting something close to what it could use and then having to manipulate it. So it's a new protocol, and it's different from the Android world in that you can request exactly what you want instead of just having four options on the menu. You can sort of say, I want, you know, uh, 4 4 grams of potato chips. I mean, if you're like a little bit hungry, or you can have a whole bag, but you can ask exactly for the amount you need. Um, versus we have a bag of potato chips that's single serving, or you can get one that's family sized. So if you want two more chips than a single serving, you just have to take the single serving, and you'll be a little hungry. I don't know if that's a great way to explain it, but it really is quite unique, because it allows you to deliver more power over time, as opposed to with the Android quick charging, you'll have a quick spike for maybe 3 to 5 minutes, and then it will degrade drastically to kind of keep the phone cool. And that's just sort of, we're going to blast the phone with power for a little bit, right? Because, oh, it's quick charge, is 120-watt quick charge. Like, it's not providing that for more than 3 to 5 minutes. It's just too hot. You can't do it. And the uniqueness with Apple's charger is that it will actually consistently provide the 40 watts that's on the box. That's like
Yeah.
the average. That's not sort of, oh, we peaked. It's 120 watts. I mean, most of the 120-watt chargers will charge around 30 watts, because that's the reality of the heat. If you kept giving the phone 120 watts, something's going to give. I mean, something's going to blow. I mean, you have to dial it down to maintain the heat. But it's really quite unique, in that way.
This is
So
cool. So this should extend battery life by being, I guess, a little bit better on your battery given the heat is no longer there, right?
you are exactly right.
Given that the heat is no longer
Exactly.
in the phone, I mean. So some of that is transferred. So now the peak, so it's a 40 wireless charger with peak of 60. It can only deliver that peak power to an iPhone for 18 minutes. This is what we see here. So They also, it's worth noting, it's $39, and if you will likely need to buy this, if you would like to match Apple's the fast charging claims for the iPhone 17 models. So they're not including this in the box. This is an extra charge, $39 for this dynamic power adapter, but might be a good idea because you'll also extend your battery life a little longer by transferring some of that heat to out of the phone, so your battery stays more neutral for over different charging cycles. I guess I wonder if there's data on this. I wonder if there's data on how this is expected to increase the lifespan of iPhone batteries going forward. Really interesting.
So yeah, no hard facts on the long-term effect yet, but you're exactly right. We're outsourcing the heat. We're putting the heat into the charging brick, which, is honestly fine. And it gets up to, I guess measured, it was around, 40 to 50 degrees Celsius, which is, you know, it's pretty warm, but that same sort of circuitry would be in your phone, essentially having to do the same. Like, it would be impossible to charge your phone that quickly and maintain the heat levels with inside the phone. So sort of combining the, you know, we outsourced the main heat producer to the brick, and we have a much more thermally conductive body. I know there's a lot, everybody's complaining it's aluminum, oh, boohoo, it's not titanium. But when you look at, the fact that aluminum is roughly 20 times more conductive in terms of heat than titanium, and over 120 times as conductive or so compared to glass, you sort of realize this is what makes it technically possible. Um, and I just had to mention that because Apple completely they didn't even mention they mentioned that your phone can charge 50% in 20 minutes, but they didn't really dive into how this happened and why it's good for you. Everyone wants their battery to last longer. Like, this isn't, it's not just, nerds who get excited about this. Like, how would you like your battery to last longer? I would love it. Well,
Yeah.
great, for new, and this isn't Apple just being Apple. This is an open source standard. So expect third-party bricks, Anchor, etc., coming soon. Apple's just really one of the first to implement the open source standard. Um, so that sort of explains, like, oh, it's a $40 brick, Apple's at it again. I mean, they are, but it's just simply one of the first to market. The third-party chargers haven't they haven't implemented it yet because I guess they just learned about it. So I bet they're hard at work designing their own alternatives. So you can wait, but if you do want to take advantage of that quick charging, um, I mean, I honestly got one just because I think, supporting the implementation of an open source standard that is materially better than what currently exists. I mean, this is a rare sort of Apple W. And honestly, it's like, look, Tim, I'm going to give you the 39 bucks. Okay, you did a great job. This is actually quite innovative for what it is. So, I encourage you to check it
Yeah.
out. There's a few, technical articles online. The exact specification is going to be USB power delivery PD 3.2 AVS. And
Sure.
basically, it's called the Apple 40-watt dynamic power adapter. Is sort of the and AVS stands for adjustable voltage supply. So we basically, as we talked about, it gives your phone exactly what it needs, and the phone and the charger talk to each other in a very kind of low level way.
So,
But they communicate, and the phone gets exactly what it wants from the charging brick. pretty
So on
cool.
the right side, what is this part? Is that's not for an Apple Watch, right? I see USB-C, and then on the right side here, is that just like an indentation? Do we know what this is
Yeah,
here?
no,
Like,
it's
it's
a
a
little dimple. I honestly think it's probably thermally insulated there, so you can grab it and take it out of the wall. Because this does get hot, not as hot as the hottest chargers, but it's going to get it's going to get warmer than your typical charger. So they probably just want to encourage people to grasp it in a certain area where they've, relocated certain components.
And this also might seem silly, but this is the US version. I'm assuming
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
not an adapter that's going to come with other attachments for your traveling. So that would need to be purchased
that
separately, or you need to have another sort of adapter.
exactly. Yeah, you'll
So
need an
for
adapter,
$39, you're only getting this.
and I'm sad to say that the I believe it's not exactly available in the EU. So I don't know
Interesting.
why, uh, but I believe this is kind of one of those US only, um, US only shenanigans
Yeah.
for now. But
Well, I feel like different frequencies. We don't forget there's electrical current frequencies in the U.S. and the EU that are different. Standard frequencies 50 hertz and 60 hertz. 50 hertz is frequently used in the UK and EU. So this is probably a North American version, which uses a standard supply of 60 hertz. So this gets a little kind of complicated, but that's probably what's going on, why this is only available in the United States. At the moment, they might not have developed AVS technology for the if they have a version for the EU. So, but I guess probably worth it for new iPhone users if you're upgrading to iPhone 17 because yeah, you'll prolong your battery life and transfer some of that heat to the power brick.
and it truly is
So
the fastest charger you can get. I mean, obviously your phone will still charge relatively quickly, but you'll have to look for a charging brick that supports this protocol specifically if you want and this is the only one I know. I think Google may have one, but it's one of two or three that exist um currently. So
well, very
again, yeah, I
interesting. Well, also
think but
more from Apple as well. This is a software change here, but we've got some updates to parental controls following up previously. Apple in June had announced a new suite of parental controls to go with iOS 26. However, now with the latest software update, there are new communication limits that can require young users to get parental permission before they can connect to certain phone numbers, FaceTime, messages, or iCloud. So we've never seen this from Apple before. Yeah, you want what's best for your family, and so do we. I guess this is what parents want, right? Including obviously OpenAI expected to release some new changes, but this just came out today. This is now available on Macs, iPads, and even Apple TV for families. So tracking time across apps is becoming a popular. Do you agree with this? I feel like this is really becoming a popular trend we see.
no, I mean, and hopefully I won't, fingers crossed won't need anything like this anytime soon, but I believe it is just for the fact that in the last I remember, I mean, in the last 20 years even, the concept of parental controls went from, filters on websites or, you know, making sure that your kids didn't buy M-rated games to now, I mean, you really do need to filter by the app, because who the heck knows, like, what 28 TikTok clones are coming out, and I mean, it really is, modern technology requires modern solutions, I guess, or modern problems. technology and problems can be synonymous sometimes. Um, but I mean, I see this as a step in the right direction. I mean, it's giving families more control. Now, how it's implemented, obviously, up to you. But I think Apple, from at least a control standpoint, wants to give that to you know provide that to parents because again, if you're a child and you grow up using an iPad, what phone do you think you're going to buy?
Yeah.
But it does help the children. It's
So
just the capitalist exploit, but it is it is mighty convenient, right, to have that on your iPad or MacBook, right?
well, this is clearly the response we see from big tech leaders. They've been accused of failing to address growing mental health crisis in teens and children. Obviously, as an explosion of technology has created more reliance, including in schools. There's good things you can do with your phone, but yeah, I feel like being able to decide who can talk to your children, how to keep them safe, we see app time limits, and we see in-app purchase restrictions. They can take time away, so you know less time on your phone, and track usage over time. So yeah, we see more granularity than ever before, and will also be interesting to see what comes from ChatGPT's maker, OpenAI, expected later this month as well.
That's
So it's a
also
theme.
interesting. Like the AI
But
guardrails. Um,
yeah,
who knows what that will entail? Um,
yes.
slash, will it be susceptible to the same sort of jailbreaking attacks that normal models are? I mean, I think one thing, children are devious and they're going to want to I mean, being a teenager, you want to break things. I mean, that's I feel like how a lot of us got our start in technology. So this is just another restriction to bypass. Um,
Yeah.
I mean, I played Halo on my school computers. They didn't allow it, but it's just sort of like, their filtering wasn't that advanced. So it's just sort of like, well, I want to play Halo with 8 other people in AP computer science. I mean, it's just sort of like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what you want. Like, it's fun. I mean, we did all the work and it's a sort of like, yeah, I don't know. But
Well, also we even see for adults and for productivity, we see software companies like Opal, which has gotten a huge growth of users, lots of popularity for helping people buy their time back. And these are just adults that want to be more productive, less distracted, and improve their mental health, get their time back because they still want to use social media, but they understand it's addictive and they want to be able to track their focus time. I don't know if you've heard of this. I've actually been using this, and
I
it
have.
really is like parental. It's like parental controls for yourself. I mean, I have self control, but also, maybe after midnight or after 10 p.m., I should be winding down. I shouldn't be on social media. So Opal is a great tool that can allow this as well. So we see this. So it's a growing trend, tracking time, tracking focus, setting block times, whether it's for studying, whether it's for work. And
Well,
Opal really has a nice system going here. So buying your time back. But at the end of the day, it really is just kind of a time tracking app on your phone. It tracks what apps you use, how long you use them, and then it'll allow you to set limits. And they can't be overridden. So it really forces you to make good habits.
and you bring up a good point too, and I just also want to highlight it's I think it's exactly the idea that you do have the self control to place those restrictions upon yourself. I mean, that's like realizing that something has those tendencies, and I say this fully as somebody who I probably spend way too much time on Instagram Reels. And honestly, like, I probably do need to, um I mean, the other issue too is on my phone, I've turned off auto lock, as well, so I have a pretty skewed, um, you know like yesterday I spent 37 hours on a screen, for example. I don't, because most of the time my phone is sitting here unlocked while I'm on my computer, because I don't want to have to, unlock it.
Yeah.
Like, what did
So
I
you're saying it's inaccurately tracking time for you? Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah, I mean, like, and it also tracks, I mean, it tracks the time I do work too, because it's like I'm on my Mac. Like, I don't know, for example, I spent, supposedly spent 3 hours browsing the internet on my phone today.
Yeah.
Like, I don't, I wasn't sitting here browsing the internet for 3 hours. I mean, it's just sort of like, or like,
Well, it's also not compiling this across devices. It's worth so Opal it is compatible on your Mac and your iPhone only, but they don't sync. I don't believe it's syncing across platforms. So it's allowing you to block, but like it's not aggregating the time together. And
okay,
you're right. Like I feel like it does they do allow you to change your parameters for like how productive you think something is because it's giving you a productivity score. However, that's really for just tracking your focus. So yeah, I feel like if you're relying on this for accuracy, I think you have a good point. You have your phone off to the side. That doesn't mean you're staring at that screen the whole time, but you were on it at the same time you were on your computer. So what's it tracking, right? Is that the proper way to think about it?
yeah, yeah. And it also, I mean, it seems very slick. I don't know, I guess does it make you solve a puzzle? I guess if you, because
Opal,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
they don't know. If you have a hard block on it, it won't let you override it. Technically, once a week you can get like a pass, but to be honest, you basically most of the time your scheduled blocks are if you have it if you pay for it, which I did, you cannot override the block. You can't uninstall the app. You can't. So it really does like it will not let you on. Let's say Instagram in the morning if you wake up and you set that schedule. So it allows you uh, to really pick which apps you want to have access to, and then you unlock these different milestones. So I really think it's cool. But again, we even see this for adults, just like we now see these parental controls with iOS 26 coming to children. So for allowing parents, but also, this kind of gives parents a way to control and be more productive themselves. So I've thought that this is, it really is parental controls for you, the parent who can't do it yourself. So
well,
I've liked
um,
I've liked using it.
well, and you bring up a great point too with, at least screen time. I've seen multiple people just, you know, close out. It's just like, you've used up your limit for Instagram today. Oh, okay, close. And then it's like, okay, well then what's the point of that? If it's like, you have the self-control at one point to set it up, but it's so easy to sort of navigate around. It's not an effective diversion.
It's
Um,
if you can override it exactly when you want to use it. That's what's so effective about the Opal app. I've really liked it because it won't let you override it, and it only gives you once a week where you can override it. But then it expires. So you've got to wait another 6 days and 23 hours until you can do it again. So, and that's only if you have a hard block. So it is a really powerful app that helps you be more productive and stick to those schedules. So yeah, we see this. Also, I feel like the new iOS 26 parental controls, they're allowing you to customize. Did you see this today in the announcement with the time who you can call, who your children can call when? So like maybe they can't
uh,
call their friends after certain hours.
yeah.
This is crazy. It's like a smartphone now, like just locking itself out. I mean, I think it's nice if you are a parent and you have a problem with your kids on the phone at night when they shouldn't be, or during hours they shouldn't be. But wow, like I did not see that coming.
Well, and that is an interesting feature, right? Because obviously you want to be able to call your emergency contact at any time, but you don't need to be, and I don't know if it's like, I don't know, is that too granular? It is strange because these restrictions also didn't exist for, like our parents, for example. I don't know if, you know, our grandparents, I guess, would unplug. I don't think you'd unplug your phone line, right, from home. So you could probably, call somebody at night in some sort of fashion. I mean, without anyone noticing. I mean, it's just sort of like, I guess the phone ringing would have to be the toughest part. You'd have to time it pretty well. But again, it's sort of a new problem where it's like, I guess now the phone's portable and it's completely silent. So now we can block communication. Um, so I don't know. I think it's something where it will be very beneficial for families and probably encourage a more, diverse group of iPhone slash iPad users. Um, and I like the addition of, Apple TV, as well. Um, kind of again, center, building on Apple's sort of ecosystem to bring something cross-platform. Um,
Absolutely. Well, we're also watching, don't forget, Meta Connect is coming up. So we are expecting new AI powered glasses and a gesture indicating wristband. Have you seen this? There's new rumors. Millions of Ray-Ban Meta devices are going to get software updates and also potential compatibility with a gesture uh, predicting or indicating wristband to go along with the, I guess, to add additional functionality to the head to the glasses. And we're also expecting the screen in one of the lenses. So it looks like we still don't have more information about it, but there was a now removed video. I don't know if we saw this on Meta's YouTube channel that was spotted by Upload VR.
I saw
Um,
that. Yeah,
and
we're way early for Meta's
yeah,
Horizon event, but
so this is
apparently,
coming. Yeah. So next week we'll be covering this as we see, here with what they're doing. And we've already seen LlamaCon. Are we familiar? I know we didn't cover this on the podcast this year, but that was its AI developer conference that took place earlier this year before they invested in Scale AI. And they started having their AI researcher hiring boom. So, but yeah, we're next week we'll be covering Meta Connect 2025, and we'll have probably highlights on the new glasses that are coming out, and will be exciting to see the VR headsets as well. So yeah, time to see what they announce
yeah, time to see what
coming
they keep up.
tomorrow night.
Give me the Zuck.
Starting tomorrow night, Zuckerberg will be announcing more Quest headsets and AI ambitions. So I don't know. Are we ready for a Quest 4? Has it really been that long? I guess the Quest 3 did come out over a year ago. So
My
that's
issue is I
crazy. Time
can't
flies.
drink anymore. They're on their third one, I guess. God bless
They're
them.
flying. No, it's crazy. Well, they've come out with a lot. I noticed. I just signed up. Maybe it's embarrassing to admit it, but I just signed up for Meta Quest. Oh God, what do they call it? Plus, it's a game subscription on the headset that's like
Oh,
$5 a month, 60
so
bucks a
kind
year.
of like Xbox Game Pass in a way. They're trying to sort of compete in that way, I guess. What I like that way of putting it because I feel like with VR you do want to try, it's such a novel experience that you really do want to try things out as opposed to being do I want to spend $50 on a game on a platform that I haven't used too much?
Exactly. Well, and also VR games traditionally haven't been more than like 30 or 40. So we've seen them being in the 20, 30, even 15, $10 space. But I think access is where it's at. And they're really pushing the Horizon Worlds. They're really pushing their subscription plan. And they had a promotion. I believe it's still going on for new subscribers. They can get $25 in Meta plus cash back. So basically, you sign up for the plan, the annual plan, you get access to all the games in the catalog, all the apps in the catalog without needing to purchase them. You have access with the subscription, and then you get $25 for purchases as well. So again, it makes your first year worth trying if you were planning on spending $25 anyway. That's kind of how I looked at it. So yeah, really exciting stuff coming on there. And yeah, we will keep you updated next week. Stay tuned to our X at Tech Talk Live, tech_talk_live, and visit us on the web at techtalklive.xyz. We'll be back next week and wherever you get your podcasts live on Tuesday.
We'll be back very soon.